All right, you sick fucks, welcome back to the deep dive. We're going to get into some real barbaric shit today.
Yeah.
We're talking Gennady Golovkin.
The Kazakh killer.
Yeah, man. The dude was a straight-up nightmare for anyone who stepped in the ring with him.
Anyone.
His Wikipedia page is basically a horror novel for his opponents.
100%.
From the mean streets of Karaganda to the bright lights of Vegas.
You know it.
The dude left a trail of broken jaws and shattered dreams.
Facts.
We're going to break down how he went from street fighter to a global boxing icon.
The GGG story, man. It's a fucking wild one. Buckle up.
Let's start from the beginning. Karaganda, Kazakhstan. Not exactly a place where you'd expect a boxing legend to come from.
Nah, man. Karaganda was rough. We're talking hardcore Soviet-era industrial wasteland. Coal mines, steel mills, the whole 9 yards. Tough as nails.
And to make matters worse, GGG's brothers were straight up sadistic. They used to make him fight grown-ass men for fun.
Yeah, that's some messed up shit right there. But hey, maybe that's what forged the iron will in him.
Trial by fire.
Exactly, man. You can't teach that kind of toughness.
And it definitely showed in his amateur career. 345 wins.
Insane!
Only 5 losses.
And all 5 were bullshit decisions.
Yeah.
Robbery. Every single one.
Never stopped. Not once.
The dude was an animal from day one. Pure raw talent.
Winning gold at the World Championships, silver at the Olympics, the guy was a machine.
A finely tuned fighting machine.
But then, shit gets really interesting. He decides to come to America, links up with this legendary trainer, Abel Sanchez.
No, Sanchez, he's a badass in his own right. Knows how to build champions.
He saw something special in GGG, took his raw talent, and added that Mexican-style aggression, turned him into a goddamn force of nature.
Yeah, and that's when the fireworks started.
The dude went on a knockout spree that terrified the entire middleweight division.
23 fights. 23 knockouts. Unheard of.
We're talking about some brutal knockouts. Proxa, Macklin, Rubio, Wade.
They all felt the wrath of GGG. It was like watching a demolition crew go to work.
Let's talk about Troxa. His U.S. debut. That fight put the entire boxing world on notice.
Oh, man. Proxa was supposed to be a challenge. A tough, durable fighter.
GGG walked through him like he wasn't even there. And that finish, brutal. Just relentless pressure until Proxa crumbled.
And that was just the beginning.
After that, it was like everyone was scared shitless to fight him.
And for good reason. He was a goddamn monster in the ring.
That body shot against Macklin, oh my God. I think I felt that one from here.
Macklin's a tough son of a bitch, one of the toughest in the business. But even he couldn't handle GGG's power.
That liver shot was like a guided missile.
And you know what? Macklin himself admitted after the fight that GGG was the best he'd ever faced.
Then there was Rubio, trying to claim that knockout was from a shot to the back of the head.
Grade A bullshit. Replay showed it was a clean shot, right on the button.
Rubio was just looking for an excuse.
Pathetic.
And Wade, 3 knockdowns in the second round. It was almost embarrassing to watch.
Wade never stood a chance. GGG was a man possessed.
But you know what they say? Styles make fights.
Right.
And that brings us to the biggest challenge of GGG's career. Canelo Alvarez.
The Canelo rivalry. 2 epic fights.
Full of controversy.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other can of worms.
A story for part 2 of this deep dive.
Stay tuned. All right, so let's dive into this Canelo shit show. 2 of the biggest middleweight fights in boxing history.
And both of them shrouded in controversy.
Oh, yeah. Controversy is an understatement, my friend. Some would say the judges had their heads firmly up their asses for both fights.
Let's start with the first one. It was a fucking war, man. Back and forth, both guys throwing bombs.
Yeah, Canelo came out trying to box, using his footwork and counter-punching. Classic Canelo, right?
Yeah.
But GGG, you know, he's a pressure fighter.
Relentless.
He just kept coming forward, wearing Canelo down with that jab.
And it felt like GGG was landing the cleaner shots, controlling the pace of the fight.
100%.
But then we had Adelaide Bird, that judge, scoring it a ridiculous 118-110 for Canelo.
Oh, don't even get me started on Bird. That scorecard was a fucking joke. Even Canelo's own fans thought it was bullshit.
It was a split draw in the end, but pretty much everyone thought GGG got robbed.
Oh, he got robbed blind, man. It should have been a clear win for GGG. But hey, that's boxing for you. Sometimes the judges are blind or corrupt or both.
So then we get to the rematch. And Canelo decided to switch things up.
Yeah, he knew he couldn't outbox GGG.
Right.
So he decided to go toe-to-toe with him, try to beat him at his own game.
And it was another close fight. Even more controversial than the first.
Oh, absolutely. It was a brawl. Both guys landing bombs.
Canelo landed more power shots, But GGG still controlled the ring with his jab and his relentless pressure.
Yeah, and the judges were split again. This time, Canelo got the majority decision. But it was another razor-thin margin.
A lot of people thought GGG should have won that one too.
It was a close fight. I could see arguments for both sides, but personally, I thought Canelo edged it out. He landed the harder shots, showed he could take GGG's power and fire back.
But you can't deny that those two fights took a toll on GGG. He wasn't the same knockout machine afterward.
Yeah, they were wars, man. They took something out of him. You could see it in his later fights. He was still winning, but he wasn't finishing guys like he used to.
And then there was that whole fiasco with his trainer, Abel Sanchez.
That was a messy divorce. Sanchez accused GGG of being greedy, of not paying him what he was worth.
Yeah, it got pretty ugly. Sounded like there were some hurt feelings on both sides.
They had a hell of a run together, but it ended badly.
GGG ended up with Jonathan Banks as his new trainer. And they had some decent success together, but it wasn't the same as the Sanchez days.
Nah, Banks is a good trainer, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have that same magic touch with GGG that Sanchez did.
But hey, GGG was still winning fights. He beat Derevyanchenko, Sarameta, Murata, all tough opponents.
He was winning, but you could see the miles starting to add up. He wasn't as sharp, not as explosive as he used to be.
And then, of course, there was that final showdown with Canelo.
The trilogy fight.
A lot of people thought it was a mistake for GGG to take that fight.
Oh, it was a bad idea from the start. GGG was way past his prime. Canelo was still in his.
And it showed.
Canelo dominated the fight, outclassed GGG in every round.
It was tough to watch, especially for diehard GGG fans.
Yeah, it was like watching a legend fade away. The king had fallen.
So that brings us to the big question. Where does GGG rank among the all-time middleweight greats?
We'll tackle that in part 3 of this deep dive.
All right, assholes. Let's get down to brass tacks here. Where the fuck does GGG rank among the all-time middleweight greats? We're talking Hagler, Monzon, Robinson, Greb dudes who made a career out of painting the canvas red with their opponent's blood.
Man, that's a tough one. It's like comparing apples and oranges. Different eras, different styles, you know?
But GGG's got to be in the conversation, right? The dude was an absolute beast in his prime. 42 wins, 37 knockouts. Those are some scary-ass numbers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those numbers are insane. And you got to factor in the level of competition he faced. He wasn't just knocking out bums. He was taking out world-class fighters, dudes who had been champions in any other era.
In that knockout streak. 23 in a row, all in title fights. That's got to be some kind of record.
It's a record that will probably never be broken, my friend. And the way he did it. Body shots, head shots, jabs, uppercuts. It didn't matter. If GGG connected, you were going down.
Well, we got to talk about those two Canelo fights. He lost both of them, even though a lot of people thought he won at least one.
Yeah, those Canelo fights were wars. They definitely took a lot out of GGG. But even in defeat, he showed what a warrior he was. Never backed down, never gave up.
And you could argue those fights were closer than the judges' scorecards indicated, especially that first one. Adelaide Bird, that blind bat.
Don't even get me started on Bird's scorecard. It was a fucking travesty. But hey, even with the losses, GGG proved that he could hang with the best of the best.
So where the hell do we rank him? Top 5? Top 10?
He's got to be in the top 10, no question. Top 5. That's debatable. But here's the thing. GGG was the most dominant middleweight of his era. For a good 5 years, he was the boogeyman of the division. Nobody wanted to step in the ring with him.
And he brought excitement back to the middleweight division. His fights were must-see TV. He was a knockout artist with a killer instinct, but he was also a class act outside the ring.
He was a throwback fighter, a guy who came to fight, not to dance around and steal rounds. He was all about throwing bombs and knocking motherfuckers out.
And he did it all with that stoic, Terminator-like expression. Never showed any emotion, just went in there and dismantled people.
Yeah, he was a cold-blooded killer in the ring. But outside of it, he's a genuinely nice guy. Humble, respectful, always has time for the fans.
So GGG might be hanging up the gloves, but his legacy is cemented. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer and one of the most exciting fighters of all time.
No doubt about it. He's a legend, and we'll be talking about him for years to come.
All right, you magnificent bastards. That's it for our deep dive into the career of Gennady GG Golovkin. Hope you learned a thing or two, or at least enjoyed the ride. Thanks for tuning in.
Keep your fists up and your chins down.
Yeah.